Hello everybody and welcome to this explainer video on the new UK Anti-Doping Assurance Implementation Plan. I'm Nicola Schedule and Competition Partnerships and Innovation Manager for England Athletics, and today I am joined by
David Walsh, Clean Athletics Manager at UKA.
Martin Rush, Special Advisor, Talent Pathways.
Lynette Smith, Membership Engagement Manager.
Barry Hopkins, Road Race Services Manager for England Athletics.
Great, thanks everybody for joining today. So just to help those of you in the sport, some of you will have seen some communication on this over the recent days. This is just a video to help go through some frequently asked questions and get a little bit of background and information from everybody on this call. So firstly, David, would I be able to pass over to you just to give a little bit of a background on this assurance framework, please?
Yeah, sure, Nicola. So it all starts back at the beginning of 2021 with the new World Anti-Doping Code. So the World Anti-Doping Agency produce a new code every 6 years. The one that came into effect in 2021 put some requirements on the national anti-doping organisations, which includes UK Anti-Doping in the UK. They have to develop a structure to ensure that all of the sports within their area, within their country, are fully compliant with the World Anti-Doping Code, and they have to be able to evidence that to WADA. If they can't do that, then the sport would be declared non-compliant, and then the sport would not be able to compete on the international stage, which is obviously something none of us want. As part of UK Anti-Doping's assurance framework, we have to provide evidence on, I think, 24 different criteria, this being one of those criteria. And when we fed back, there were a few little tweaks that were needed, including an update on some of the wording, which is where this comes in.
Great, thanks, David. And just from a governing body perspective, Martin, can I just ask from your side of things why this is being implemented?
So in really simple terms, this is about making sure that competition, participation in our sport is fair and equitable. We want to make sure that athletes who put all that time training, the coaches that put all the work into helping those athletes, and the officials that run competitions and event organisers are all essentially putting on competition that people can enter and ensure that it is fair. And this process, or the assurance framework, gives assurance, as it says in the title, to everybody involved in sport that the governing bodies are following policies and procedures and putting policies and procedures in place to make sure that that is effective. So UK Athletics have responsibility for producing the overall strategy around anti-doping, and then the home countries have a responsibility to make sure that that strategy is implemented through education policies and through making sure that people sign up to particular codes and policies, so that we have that sort of tracking ability to follow athletes from the point of entry or point of joining a club all the way through to actually then competing in a fair manner.
Great, thanks, Martin. And I think you have touched upon this a little bit, but from your perspective, what can you see that are the practical implications of this assurance framework?
So essentially around the education part, we need to make sure that any of our talent athletes, those athletes identified on our talent pathways, go through UK Athletics anti-doping training. They're aware of their responsibilities, and that goes the same for any support personnel of those athletes and especially coaches of those athletes. So we have a direct responsibility to make sure that we provide education for those. We also need to make sure that education is available for the wider sport. So that might be anybody in a club, anybody who is a recreational athlete or an athlete aspiring to get onto talent pathways and compete for club and country. So we need to make sure that through the websites that we host, England Athletics, other home countries, and UK Athletics, people can connect to, find resources, and we ensure that those are easily accessible and learning is available for people. We also have to track all this education that we do and have to report back. And we have at an England level a England board anti-doping champion. So that is a board member who is responsible for ensuring that an annual report is pulled together so that the England board can see what we have done with regards to the implementation of the assurance framework.
Great, thanks for that, Martin. A great overview from a governing body perspective. So I guess looking forward then, what are the practical implications for competition organisers, competitors and clubs on the ground? So in this instance, Martin, Lynette and Barry will be able to speak from a road running perspective, track and field competition perspective, and also from a club membership perspective. So Lynette, if I hand over to you from a membership perspective, first of all, what will this look like for clubs and members?
Okay, thanks, Nick. Well, from a club perspective, it will be really necessary for the clubs to have the UK anti-doping policy available to their membership. It'll be all on our website. It'll be updated onto the portal, but it's essential that anybody that's competing or representing their club is clear that they've signed up to the anti-doping policy. It's essential that they understand about the policy and have a clear understanding of it for competition purposes. So we will be making changes to the portal. So when the clubs register each individual athlete, they will also be agreeing that the athlete has read this policy and they are understanding it for competition purposes. So there will be a tick box introduced that the clubs will need to ensure that athletes are aware of that when they register them for competition purposes.
Great, thanks, Lynette. And so that then ties up a little bit with competition providers. So Martin, could you just explain, even though these regulations will be in place from a club perspective, how and will that impact on competition providers?
So what we're doing is we will be asking all event organisers to include a statement on their entry forms, so that essentially when I, an athlete, enter a competition, I am signing up to the UK Athletics anti-doping policy, and through that the assurance framework and the WADA codes. So that really is it. There will be a statement saying that I agree to abide by the UK anti-doping policies. I could read that statement out if you want. And essentially I sign up to that for 12 months from the point of entry to that competition. So from when I sign, 12 months after that date, I am under the auspices of the UK Athletics anti-doping policy. So what we're asking all event organisers to put on their entry forms is the following statement. All entrants should be deemed to have made him, herself, theirself familiar with and agreed to be bound by the UK anti-doping rules and to submit to the authority of UK anti-doping in the application and enforcement of those anti-doping rules. The UK Athletics anti-doping rules apply to entrants participating in the sport of athletics for 12 months from the date of entry, whether or not the entrant is a citizen of or resident in the UK. So that's everybody who is based in the UK, a UK club member competing in licensed events. They will be signing up to these UK Athletics anti-doping rules. And if there's an athlete that's come in from abroad, they themselves will be signing up to the UK anti-doping rules while competing in this country in a licensed event.
Great, thanks for that, Martin. Barry, would you just be able to give an overview on what this means for road race, licensed road race events, please?
Yeah, no problem at all. Road race and multi-terrain events are licensed through England Athletics through our Run Britain portal currently. So all races and licensed events that go through the Run Britain process via our licensing system will need to follow this as well. So we're asking event organisers to make themselves obviously familiar with the resources and the FAQs that we're sending out to them. They will need to include the statement that Martin read out earlier in this session. We're asking them to include that alongside the medical declarations that they already have on the online entry systems, and indeed if those who are doing paper entry systems will need to include it on their paper entry systems. It is important that they go to each of their online providers. Many of our organisers have multiple platforms they use, so they just need to make sure that they go through and do that for each one. Quite a few of the clubs and organisers also use our Run Britain online entry system. We have already updated that system with the line, so there's no further action needed for that online system, but that's only on the Run Britain online entry system.
That's great. Thanks, Barry. And then Martin, are you able to expand from your point of view on what this means for other events?
So yeah, that statement, what we are asking is all event organisers of licensed events to include that statement on their entry form. So there is a directly traceable link from somebody entering the event to agreeing to the UK Athletics Anti-Doping Code. So what that means in practicalities, if you're entering an England national championship event, track and field, then that statement would be on the entry form, the online entry form, and you tick that box and that would be you signed up to it. We're asking other event organisers of open events, of league events, to hold the same, and also school events. If a competition, though, is not licensed, so it's a local fun club event with internal to that club, and you're just hosting something for your club members, and it's not licensed, then there is no requirement. It's essentially licensed events that we're talking about. Leagues obviously present the problem that individual athletes don't, or challenge rather, don't require the athlete to enter that particular league. So the onus then is on the team manager to ensure that those athletes that they are registering for that particular league are fully aware that those athletes are signing up to the UK Athletics Anti-Doping Code. So the league entry form will have that statement on it. And then if I was a team manager of a club team entering a league, I would ensure that on the information that I send out to each of the athletes, be it logistics about the team travel or health and safety or what events they're entering in, that information that I send out to a particular athlete, I would just try and make sure that they are fully aware of their responsibilities under the UK Athletics Anti-Doping Code. It is very, very likely that those same individuals have already signed up to their club, because obviously they're entering the league as a club, so they should be picked up, as Lynette said, through their club membership system as well.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks for that, Martin. Go ahead,
Sorry,
David.
Nick, I was just going to add there, I really agree with that, Martin. If it's a league event and all of the people can participate in that event are club members, then they're covered by the membership declaration. That's absolutely fine. It's just those where a guest is allowed, then they'll need to be signed up individually. And I guess the same would apply at something like an open meet, as you mentioned earlier.
Great. Thanks, David. In summary, I think we've covered all the frequently asked questions that were included within the documentation. Is there anything anybody else would like to add, or something that we've not covered, which you think might be useful for the sport to hear and listen to? No? Okay. Well, that's great. What we'll do after this video, there will be a page where our contact details will be available should you have any more further questions and queries about how this may impact you, your club, or your competition. And we'll also add on there some information for reference and a little bit of information about England Athletics and our approach. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this. Thank you, all four of you, for being on this call as well. I hope everybody's found it useful, and take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.